Okay, so in this final analysis, we are going to wrap up the analysis from the perspective of Mark McClish. We've dealt with the 911 call, the ransom note, the interviews of John and Patsy Ramsey, um, True to Theory, according to John Mark Carr, and then Burke Ramsey's interview. And so just kind of wrapping everything up and looking at everything from a high level view. The 911 call, Patsy began the call by saying, "We have a kidnapping." Instead of saying, "My daughter has been kidnapped," she had two changes in language that appeared to be unjustified: gone to missing, note to ransom note. She refers to herself as the mother rather than "I am her mother." That was important. And that plays some sort of significant role, obviously, when we start talking about the ransom note, the inconsistency in language. Unless it was at the beginning of, in the inaudible portion of the 911 call, Patsy's plea for help comes toward the end of the call. "Please send somebody." And then lastly, Patsy hangs up the phone after reporting her daughter was missing, or she tried to hang up the phone. There are too many unusual things about this call which lead us to believe that something is amiss, of course. So it's like always something with these people. When you think about these people, it's always something that's off. I can't necessarily rule you out all the way because something is off. And that's how I felt in the handwriting analysis. It's like, man, I'm just looking at this analysis and just something seems not right. So moving on to the ransom note. We know that it was not a group effort. Well, this is his assumption. His assumption is that we know that it was not a group effort because of the changing pronouns. The writer usually used pronouns, but um, plural pronouns, but slipped and used the singular pronouns "I" and "my." Now, and then, the writer switched back to "we" again. So there was that. We have to take that into account. Um, and that also cannot mean anything as well. It could just mean that the person is the head of this foreign faction. Hey, and by the way, I'm a nice guy. He might be saying, "You know what? I'm a nice guy, but the people I work with aren't. So I wouldn't make them mad. I wouldn't tick them off." That's something that we have to consider. The writer misspelled two words, but correctly spelled, that were easy, but correctly spelled, maybe more difficult words. So basically trying to throw us off the track, that you're educated when you might that you're not educated when you might legitimately be educated. Words that you should have struggled with, you did quite well. And we didn't see any other misspelled words for the rest of the note. It would have made sense to us and to investigators that somewhere along the line, if you're bad at spelling up here, then there's going to be another word somewhere along this line that trips you up, and it just never came. Um, the writer requested an odd amount of money. That's true. The writer was about to say that they would deliver JonBenét, but crossed over and crossed out the word delivery. The writer used the phrase "she dies" as opposed to "she will die," kind of speaking of her in past tense rather than in future tense. This is an indication JonBenét was already dead when the ransom note was written. At the end of the ransom note, the writer referred to John Ramsey as John. This indicates the writer felt comfortable enough to call him John. The writer then knows John Ramsey. The ransom note was 2.5 pages long. That's too long for a ransom note. That's not normal. It's not real. The ransom note was written in the Ramsey house with their pen in their notebook. And not only that, but everything that the unaliver used was found in the Ramsey's house. So very weird that you have everything that this individual needs just by happenstance. It's very clear that this ransom note was not written with the intent to extort money from John. It was not a legitimate ransom note. No one attempted to kidnap John. That's JonBenét. The ransom note was most likely written after she had died. All indications are it was written as a ruse to throw investigators off. And that's what Patsy said in her interview with Larry King. John and Patsy Ramsey interviews. In their first interview, they were more interested in thanking the people and finding out why this happened as opposed to finding who killed JonBenét. I didn't catch that the first time. So understanding, saying thank you and why did this happen? We need to be figuring out who did it rather than why that person did it. We can figure that out later. But anyways, I was going to say, like, John was talking about how JonBenét didn't need to be in pageants, or he said it was new territory to him. So they both said that for their entire life, they will be looking for the person who murdered their daughter. So far, that is held true after someone broke into their house and murdered JonBenét. John Ramsey said that they believe they still lived in a safe community. That's also seeming to be true. Patsy Ramsey said she thought the ransom note was written as a ruse to throw us off. Contradicts what they said in their book, The Death of Innocence. In their book, they said this was a kidnapping that turned into a murder. Okay. The Ramsey's language indicates that they know who killed JonBenét. That's why they can say they live in a safe community. That's why they both said that they will be looking for the killer for their entire life. They know this was not a kidnapping that turned into a murder. That is why Patsy Ramsey said she thought the ransom note was written as a ruse. John Mark Carr, he's a nut. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Burke Ramsey's interviews. Burke could not tell us with any certainty, when he had last saw JonBenét. He did not give very good explanations as to why he stayed in bed frantically. He never specifically stated anything about the ransom note that we could use. He denied being present during the 911 call. He gave stronger denials as he was asked more things about his sister. He gave good denial when asked if he harmed or murdered his sister. The problem is that he was alerted to these questions. He was primed before these questions. A lot of times when we're doing interviews, we're doing sort of in-depth interviews is what they call them. And you're meeting with somebody. You have to watch how you write the question so that you don't sort of elicit or encourage or lead. They call it leading the individual, so that you don't lead them to answer the question in a way that makes them biased. You want to frame the question in a way that is open-ended, even if you think the question is most innocent. And that's not what Dr. Phil was doing. He was leading Burke and giving Burke a heads up. Burke's statement that he felt bad about possibly leaving the front door open appears to be truthful. I don't think that's truthful at all. I don't think the door had anything to do with it. We do have problems with some of Burke's answers. There were times when he changed how he answered a question. There may be justification for the change, and we do not know what that is. There were times when Dr. Phil prepped him for the question. He did show signs of being truthful. He gave some direct denials, and he said he felt bad about possibly leaving the front door open. As to his truthfulness, this one is a toss-up. I would lean in the direction of he was being truthful. However, there are several follow-up questions I would want to ask him, which would help us determining if he was telling the whole truth. The Sun has reported that Burke Ramsey, most likely through his lawyer, has offered to take a lie detector test to prove his innocence. A list of a lot of people who say they're willing to take a polygraph never do. We will wait to see if he does take the polygraph test. As of 2020, he has not. That was a short recap of everything that we just went through, according to the analysis of I don't know if he's the doctor, but Mr. Mark McClish. And so go ahead and shut it down right there. Thanks for watching. Have any comments, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments about this wrap up of the whole thing. What do you think about Mark McClish? Is he somebody that's credible to you in this entire process that you can believe in? What theories do you agree with him on? What theories do you disagree with him on? But yeah, again, thanks for watching the video. And until next time, take it easy.